business at the end of the day.
And I knew the story. So from the end times, in the world that was, Slanesh had gorged she's self full of the elves. Basically got really, really, I guess, fat and kind of needed to slumber. Zench had kind of pointed where he was to Teclis, Tyrion, Marathi, basically kind of tied him up and kept him within the realms. And I guess I'm summarizing it very, very quickly. There's a lot of in-depth lore here, but Slanesh is now released, which is why the battle tomes come out. We had the Daughters of Cain who kind of started stealing the souls from Slanesh. Has there been any advancement to the story, or what else? What else do we need to know about Slanesh's return, other than getting a sexy ass book?
Yeah, so Slash actually isn't free. She's still captured. And what's happening is after the Necro Quake, Slanesh is sending these really hidden whispers to all of her followers who are going around doing deeds and breaking chains. And so slowly Slanesh is breaking free, but at the current time, we're still trapped.
Because Marathi had got a little bit greedy herself and started stealing more souls than the others. So it sounds like Slanesh is not free just yet, but I'm sure something's going to happen. I love this.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll start, Mitch. Mitch, what attracted you to Slanesh? So we love the excess, we love the models. What do we like about Slanesh?
Well, it started with I've always in AOS liked fast armies. Any army that can get into combat, get slashing straight away has been on the table for me. So I started with Flesh Eaters, and I'd considered going into other armies, but there had to be one demon army. I had to pick either Zinj, Khorne, Slanesh, or Nurgle, and the rest just didn't stand out to me.
Great. And Joel, yourself?
Like any other army that I really start, apart from Stormcast, I start to prove a point to the guys in my local club. And I thought I like collecting armies that no one else in my area is playing. So Slanesh was just the obvious choice because I saw a lot of potential in them back then, prior to even the General's Handbook. So, yeah.
No, this is great. And fun fact, I have a whole bunch of 4th and 5th edition Slanesh. So I had a mixed Chaos Force, which was basically Zinj demons and Slanesh demons. Ironic, given the lore, as they hate each other. But I'm really interested to learn about demonettes and what's, I guess, evolved since that time. So, Joel, let's start with the strengths. Like, what are the strengths of the Slanesh book and this army in general?
So, firstly, the biggest strength, in my opinion, is the depravity points. So this is a summoning mechanic for the army. Basically, whenever your heroes do a wound or a mortal wound in combat or with a spell, they generate a depravity point for every wound that doesn't kill a model. And then every time that they take damage before they die, generates a depravity point. So those depravity points, they rack up quite quickly, and you can start summoning off of other heroes, more demonettes or more heroes. You can even summon a Keeper of Secrets if you want to. Really, really strong mechanic.
Is it, in your opinion, is it the strongest summoning mechanic we currently have?
Without a doubt. But the counterbalance to such a strong mechanic is you can turn it off as the opponent to a Slanesh army. You can just shoot off or kill all their heroes, and then you can no longer summon. And then the army's glass as well. So what I mean by that is it's super fragile. So if you can get the upper hand on Slanesh, you will just tear through the army pretty quickly.
Mitch, any other strengths you'd add to that?
To the overall army or to the summoning? Because summoning, the fact that we can summon more heroes is, even if it wasn't as cheap as it is, being able to summon more heroes who can summon then more units makes it overwhelming if they don't kill the last hero. If you got one little herald at the back of the board, suddenly your entire army's slowly making its way back out.
Which I saw Joel sneakily do at Border Wars, summoning a hero to a hero to a hero to a hero, and then 10 demonettes. I don't know if you can still do that, but that was a cheeky little summon you did against Jesse Perkins.
I can't see why you'd be able to do it.
Yeah, you can still daisy chain summon. The downside is though that the Rapturouses at the time they cost only 6 depravity points, and now they're 14, I think. So yeah, you can't exactly daisy chain like what I did, but that was literally my last model left in that game. And then turn 5, 1 priority, and then summoned onto all the objectives and won.
That's
blood and glory.
That's beautiful.
It was amazing,
Yeah,
and if you want to hear more about this story, check out the Measured Gaming podcast because they did an awesome review. And a lot of us were sitting there just scratching our heads, going, "How is this even possible?" So, but that's a different podcast in itself.
Yeah, check out Bush Radio. Shout out.
Shout out to Bush Radio. It's a great podcast. So we know Slaanesh is fast. We know we've got great depravity points. What other strengths does Slaanesh have?
Well, double hits on 6s. It's army wide now, so it's insane. The fact that you can go from 2 attacks on a Keeper of Secrets to do 5 damage apiece to getting lucky and getting 4 attacks out, it can kill anything. A Keeper can fight anything in the game.
And it's an awesome model.
Yeah.
I just got to say, that's a friggin' fantastic model.
Yeah. What also makes euphoric killers as the rule really good is units of 20 or more. Every 6 is counted as 2 hits.
Yep.
So a horde of demonettes of 30 models is getting about 60 odd hits through, which is just insane.
30 demonettes, 3s on 6s, and then if you have euphoric, what's the other one? The battalion. Epicurean Revelers.
Yeah.
6s to wound to model wins.
Yeah.
So they're just
demonettes are nasty.
So good.
Very, very nasty.
Oh, here's some glimpses to the future. Go on.
There's one more really, really, really strong mechanic in Slaanesh, and that's called the Locus of Diversion.
Yep.
And basically, any hero in the battle tome, as well as the Forge World Keeper of Secrets, get this rule. So your Slaves of Darkness and your Beasts of Chaos stuff won't get this, but we'll touch on them a bit later. And basically, at the end of the charge phase, you pick a enemy unit within 6 inches, and on a 4+, they fight at the end of the combat phase. If they're fighting first, then they cancel each other out and they fight normally. And then if the demon that's doing it, the hero that's doing it, is like a Keeper of Secrets, they add 2 to that, so it's on a 2+.
So hypothetical scenario, you've got 3 units in combat with me, and I've just got 1, large unit of 60 grots. Does that mean that I have to wait for all 3 of your units to attack before I attack, or does that unit have to attack last out of my choices?
You have to wait because you're going last. You don't lose your combat.
So it's not like the unit goes last, but like if I had 2 units to choose from, it's not like that one goes last. It's like literally you're going to attack first and just
fight at the end of the combat phase.
Yeah. So if you had 2 units and we only affected 1, the other unit still gets to go.
For sure. But if we're in like an even situation, you have opportunities to do that to me on the 2-up or the 4-up. It literally means I'm fighting last. So that in itself is super powerful and super strong. So I love it for you.
It is a bit dicey. You can't re-roll it, and you can't stack it. So say if you've got 2 heroes against the 1 unit, and if you fail 1, you don't get the second chance from the other hero. Yeah. So something to keep in mind.
Which is why the Contorted Epitome is one of the best models we've gotten, because it has another version of it that happens in the combat phase instead of the charge phase. So
you're a sneaky second attempt.
Yeah, that's right.
I like it. So what are the strengths? I think Joel, you alluded before about the glass cannon. What other weaknesses do they have, Joel? And then I'll find out what else Mitch thinks.
I don't really want to disclose any more weaknesses.
That's all he's asking about.
Yeah. Well, as someone sitting here on my ivory throne of grots, I think you guys have already alluded to the fact that you have an over-reliance on heroes, and the moment those heroes disappear, the depravity points kind of become null and void. Is that true?
100%. Yep.
Yeah. There's no getting around that. Even like the regular units in the army don't hold a candle to how strong the heroes can be.
Yeah. And Joel, what other weaknesses do you have? Come on, armor saves. Does it look like you guys have very strong armor saves?
Yeah, so as I said before, the army's glass, so nothing in the book has better than a 4+ save, and relatively low wounds on most of our stuff. So, like the Keeper of Secrets has the same survivability essentially as a Bloodthirster, but they're weak as piss as well. So, the only difference is that the Keeper hits a lot harder.
Yeah. All right. Well, it sounds like you guys are trying to keep your weaknesses, or maybe you don't have enough weaknesses. Maybe that's where that FAQ is meant to help us, but clearly not. So, no weaknesses for Slaanesh. They're amazing. Just heroes.
We're keeping our secrets for now, mate.
I like that.
Yeah.
Cool. So, if I was to go Allegiance Slaanesh as opposed to Grand Alliance Chaos, what are those benefits that I'm going to get by taking this allegiance? So, do I get a terrain piece? What do I get for my swearing my allegiance to the Dark Prince?
Mitch. Yeah, so you get Oh, Mitch.
You get the famous Slaanesh, which is one of my favorite terrain pieces that have come out recently. Because it's useful the entire game. Depending on if you're playing Pretenders, it's not as good for the rerolls because you can give yourself a certain command trait. But Keepers of Secrets getting rerolls from that thing, taking 1 wound and then rerolling all hits is amazing. Keeping a hero around it to summon and get a little bit of a refund.
Is there rules for the terrain piece? Like, can you put it anywhere on the board, or is there like restrictions?
Just within your territory, which depending on the game type can be half of the board. So you can place it ahead and move up to it instead of like the throne for the Flesh Eaters where it's got to be 12 inches from the board edge.
Yeah. And Joel, anything else you get for swearing allegiance to the Dark Prince?
Apart from the terrain piece and everything else that we just mentioned before about the benefits, I think that's pretty much it, really. You get there's no like battle line ifs. You get Hellstriders as battle line,
but you've got your endless spells. No. I guess I'm talking aloud. Like you get a few extra things.
Yeah. So the endless spells, they're cool, but I don't think they're game breaking. There's 3 of obviously.
Yeah. There's 1 out of 3 that is potentially amazing, and most of the time mediocre. Which is the Mirror. I love it. I've rolled in 2 different games. I've rolled 9 mortal wounds on it on a hero with 6 wounds, so it's not too bad.
I guess the reason why we don't really like the endless spells is because they don't generate depravity points. Yep. So a lot of them are doing just mortal wounds, and that's less depravity points that you're doing for every point of damage that they do.
Okay, good call out. Now Stormcast have chambers. Daughters have temples. Does Slaanesh have some way of like customizing their force with this? I guess a sub allegiance.
Yeah. So when you pick Slaanesh as your allegiance, you must choose one of the 3 hosts to build your army around. So there's Pretenders, Invaders, and Godseekers. All 3 of them have different command traits and artifacts to choose from. You can't cross-pollinate, though, so you must choose out of those ones. And, they all have different bonuses. You generate depravity points in addition to just doing damage now as well. And so all 3 of those have different ways to do it. And, Mitch, what do you reckon?
I think that Invaders will almost never be played by me because I'm very narrow-minded in what I like in an army. There's a little too many restrictions on it. If you're bringing the new Demon Prince, that's a must if you bring him, unless you are low points and you're only bringing him as your general. Yeah. Pretenders is probably my favorite. Just the idea of someone running around pretending to be Slaanesh and inspiring all these other demons. And Godseekers, I was a little down on them at the start because I remember them giving +2 to all my big move units. Yeah. But then the +1 to charges, I realized with all of our summoning is just brutal.
It's really good. When you pair that with, say, Cogs or something, when you're charging on a 6 instead of a 9 with summoned units, it's pretty good.
Yep.
The God Seekers is the one to choose, or that's the strongest of the three?
No, I reckon Pretenders is still
Yeah.
probably the strongest. However, all three of them do have their bonuses, and you could take with Slanesh, you could take the exact same list in terms of units. It's like 2,000 point Slanesh army, and if you put that into any of the three hosts, it would play completely differently, which is what I really, really like about the book.
Yeah.
So when you guys are building a force, I know some armies start with that type of sub-allegiance and build from that. So Gloomspite, for example, I think about I'm going to be very grot heavy or squig heavy. Is that a big factor when you start list building, or do you guys look more for things like heroes and battalions to start the list building process? Mitch?
A lot of mine has been around what I have right now. I've got plans for more, like for Sydney GT. I've got a few things I'm going to buy because it's a lot larger points. But yeah, I usually start with a Keeper of Secrets and then decide which of the two hosts fits my points better. I always try to add a Keeper though.
So you're building around the Keeper?
Yeah.
And Joel, where do you start?
I think the Keeper's probably an auto include in most, if not all, Slanesh armies at the moment, like minimum of one. It has a command ability that lets your stuff fight for a second time, which is just really, really good on a really combat-y army. So, I guess when you have that Keeper, it's going to usually be a general as well. You just choose whether or not you want it for damage or for speed. If you're going to take models like Celeste, who need to be a general to use their command ability, that's when you start looking into the Invaders host, because you don't actually want it to be the general, but it counts as being one.
Yeah.
So maybe what I'm hearing is that the hero choice, especially the Keeper of Secrets and how you want to start building around it, is important. Do you see a world where you wouldn't take a Keeper of Secrets?
Yeah.
Other than like a really small point value?
If it's a normal game of a tournament, then I'm always going to have at least one Keeper, preferably two.
Is there any reasons why you wouldn't take a Keeper?
Yes, there would be. It'd be to run a lawnmower army. So all the chariots for Slanesh, they're typically lawnmowers. That's what they are in the narrative as well. I'd just be running a whole heap of them and stuff the Keeper off someone in one later kind of thing. But that's going to probably be the only time that I don't, is if I'm doing a themed army like that, which would still be effective, by the way, because they're pretty good.
They're so strong now.
The heralds on the chariots are awesome.
Oh yeah.
Except to build because they're spiky and you'll bleed because they hurt.
They were way easier to build than people made out, though. I was like,
they're easy to build, but they're just a pain in the ass because all the cogs of the spikes on them, they're all separate. It's just a pain in the ass.
Look, I have hands that avoid manual labor, so I get injured really easily.
That's fair enough. If you want to avoid buying the endless spells, just make one out of the chariots.
Yeah.
Take all the whips.
All right, well, let's start talking list building, and I think what's coming quite quickly out of this discussion is that heroes are very important. So maybe we'll start with the hero choices and thinking about which are the heroes that really stand out strong, or maybe some of the auto includes, or ones that maybe only fit into lists in particular scenarios, or maybe some particular sub-allegiances. So let's talk Keeper of Secrets first. We obviously really like it. Why do we like it? How do we kit it out? Talk to me about the Keeper. Joel, you first. I know you're a big fan of it.
So the Keeper of Secrets is 360 points, and basically, as I just said before, it has an awesome command ability to make your stuff fight twice. When you take it, there's three different options that you can give it. So it's armed with, it's got its big claws, which are 5 damage a pop, and then you've got its sword, which is 2 damage a pop, and then on its other hand, you can take either the Living Whip, the Sinistrous Hand, or the Ritual Knife. And what I go for is always the Sinistrous Hand.
Why?
So reason is when you kill something, at the end of that combat phase, you heal D3 wounds. If you kill a hero, you heal D6. That's why.
And it doesn't have to be with the hand, which is the most important part.
That's awesome. That's so good.
Yeah. It makes depravity really, really good when you're doubling down on the amount of wounds that you're taking on a model. So if you're keeping them alive for longer while they're taking damage, then you're just generating more. Yeah.
It's completely possible to have a keeper die and have generated enough points from taking wounds to summon itself again. Just from continually healing it, even if you're fighting a horde army.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to pause there and just admire the amazingness of what you just said.
That which part?
Just the fact that you could take damage and summon another keeper off the back of a dead keeper. So, Joel, how many keepers do you keep in your back pocket? Like when you come to a tournament, you're probably bringing, 1 to 2 keepers? Do you have more up your sleeve?
Yeah, so I have 3 keepers on me in total, 1 in my list and then 2 on my sideboard. Because they cost 30 depravity points to summon. So if like one of your keeper dies, you're already halfway to getting another one. If it does damage, if it kills a dragon or something, you're already halfway to getting one. So yeah, you get them, you rack it up quite quickly.
Yeah, especially with 10 damage from the claws. If you're going pretenders and you have the sliver slash, you've got 20 damage out of the claws.
Yeah.
All right. So keeper, awesome. Auto include, bring 1, have at least 2 more up your sleeve minimum.
My
love
favorite
it.
part about the keeper is the fact it's on a small base. Its base isn't like Terrorgeist size. It's so easy to get around the board.
So why is that important to you?
Avoiding being within 6 inches of my army for pretenders rerolls, because the keeper with that command ability has to stay out of a certain range to get its rerolls. If it had a big base, it'd be a lot harder.
Another good thing, if you want to make it fly, like in Godseekers, there's an artifact that lets you fly. You wouldn't take that one; you'd take the Thermal Rider cloak. But
absolutely,
being able to just fly over chat screens and stuff, and then start doing your damage there, is really good. Yep. It also makes your opponent have a tougher job of screening off because it can actually fly. One other thing that I really like about the Keeper too, it's just on its War Scroll, delicate precision. Every time it wounds on a natural 6, the damage that it would do with that attack is mortal wounds instead.
Yep.
So
5 damage, mortal wounds.
Is that a modifiable roll or is it unmodified?
Unmodified.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's really good.
She's very scary now.
Yes.
And she looks it.
Yes. Amazing model.
So Keeper of Secrets, definitely 100% in the list. Basically, don't leave home without one. And for 360, I think it's very reasonably priced. Yeah, cool. I like it. What do we think of the hero Keeper of Secrets? The hero, the unique one, Shalaxi.
I think it has less damage potential.
Yes, 100%. Less damage potential, same sort of stats. Doesn't have a command ability. It is 20 points cheaper, but you'd want Shalaxi in your list to go and go kill those little foot heroes. She's not going to be able to kill a dragon reliably by herself in a turn.
Yeah.
They do get access to rerolls through issuing a challenge or issuing a challenge with Shalaxi here. But I don't know. It's not overly good. In my opinion, I do see value in her. You could just take her instead of, as well as a regular keeper, but it's not to replace a regular keeper.
So would you, in a list, take one keeper and one Shalaxi, or do you think a double keeper would be more beneficial?
A regular keeper is only 20 more points and it's more damage, just as survivable, unless Shalaxi gets the +1 save against heroes. But then they'll just target you with not heroes.
So, in Joel, in what situation would you think Shalaxi would be a better choice than taking a second keeper?
If you ended up with 2 keepers in your list and you're 20 points over.
I had a
Basically,
feeling that would
but
be the answer.
If you're playing a narrative game and you like Shalaxi, I think it's a cool model, and it's a shame that it's not stronger.
Yeah, look, what makes it not a good choice, in my opinion, is on her Soul Piercer, the really big spear, it's only got 1 attack. And that just, like, 1 attack that does D6 damage, or potentially 6 if you issue the challenge, is just not an optimal choice.
She can't take command traits or artifacts. Doesn't get any stronger than the page gives you. So
yeah, she's got a self buff with her own spell. She rerolls hits. Yeah, when she attacks a hero, and she rerolls saves. Yeah, when she takes damage from a hero. But yeah, she's just by herself. You generally, if you were taking her, you would want to keep her secrets wholly within 12 of her. So then she can pile an attack twice. So she needs babysitting.
No command trait. No command ability.
So what I'm hearing is that for the 20 points more, you just get so much more value by taking a second Keeper of Secrets than taking Shalaxi.
Absolutely.
In case there's like some very odd situations, it sounds like a second Keeper would be the way to go.
Yeah.
Mitch, what would be another hero that you would recommend from Slaanesh?
The Contorted Epitome. I just fumbled all that, but the mirror, the spellcasting 2 Demonette mirror.
So 200 points, it's a leader.
Amazing.
Why do we take it?
Level 2 wizard, rerolls failed casts, 2 up save against mortal wounds, and it has a locus of distraction because it's a hero, but then it also has another version of that happens in the combat phase instead of the end of the charge phase, so that if you fail to get someone, she goes again in the start of the combat phase to push them to the last as like your last line of defense on forcing people to go last. So there's 2 extra ones, I guess, and it affects everyone within 6 instead of one specific hero unit.
Love it. Love it.
What makes the Contorted Epitome so good for is, as Mitch described, it's called Horrible Fascination. The locus is a unit. Horrible Fascination is every enemy unit within 6 inches at the start of combat. 4+, you fight last. It's really, really good.
So it's an area of effect as opposed to the choosing one and on that roll it.
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, it's giving you a 4-up reroll. If you're running like her and another hero, you're getting a 4-up reroll on like 2 units. It's really good.
Yeah, that's great. That's very dangerous.
Yep.
Joel.
But go for it.
No, I was going to ask you: have you got another hero choice, or are we still talking about the Contorted?
Well, no, we'll go another hero choice.
All right, so
this is actually
I forgot to say just before that, she also has a way better version of the Herald spell that can target up to 3 enemy units to give you rerolls of 1 against them, and it's 24-inch range.
So
it's like
what is the Herald spell? We haven't talked about it yet. So what is the Herald spell, and what's the new one?
The Herald one is called Acquiescence, where you target a unit within 18 and give anyone who targets them for attacks gets rerolls of 1. The Overwhelming Acquiescence, I think, is the Epitome's one. And essentially, it's you roll a d3, that's how many units within 24 inches get rerolls when they're hit. Rerolls of 1. So
yeah, and that's army-wide too. It's really strong.
She's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't argue with a 200-point 7-wound hero that's rerolling casts, unbinds, and dispels. It's really, that's just on one profile. She's got 2 more as well. So yeah, she's really good. Sort of judgment wielder.
Yeah, that's going to be scary.
Is she another auto include like the Keeper?
Yeah, 100%. I'm sure you can build a list. I'm sure you could build a list without her in there, but I think that she's too good value at the moment not to take.
And look, obviously,
just having that reliability.
We're talking here in a very competitive sense, and again, in every video I mentioned this is your hobby. Do what you want to do, build and paint what you want to paint. But we're talking here like list optimization and getting the most out of your force. So bear that in mind, guys. If you like something and you want to take Shalaxi, take it. But we're just talking competitive here.
No, but if it lasts too long, consult your doctor after taking Shalaxi.
That sounds like an American, one of those
I should have said it faster if it was an American one.
So, all right. So we're going to take the contorted keeper of secrets, minimum 1. Joel, what's the next hero that you would recommend?
The unsung hero in the book, like the keeper's great, but the pick out of all the heroes, in my humble opinion, is the Bladebringer Herald on Exalted
I
Chariot.
was so hoping you'd say that. I was worried.
Well, I mean, there's a few other ones which are pretty good, but this thing here is just fucking amazing. Where do we start? 10 wounds. It's got a 10-inch move. It's got like 23 attacks on its profile.
Yep, base.
Base, 4-up save. And what it does is, it's 220 points, by the way. It's a wizard now as well, which is just even better. And what it does now is it does 2 lots of mortal wounds. So 1 on impact. When it charges, you roll a dice for a unit within 1. On a 1, nothing happens. 2 to 4, they take D3 mortals. On a 5+, they take D6. And then at the start of combat, at the end of the charge phase, start of combat, whenever it is, you roll a dice for each unit within an inch of it. And on a 2+, they take D3 mortal wounds. And for every 2+ you roll, you add 1 to the attacks characteristics of all of its weapons. It's got 3 weapon profiles.
Yep.
So for every 2+ is actually 3 extra attacks in total.
And all those are generating depravity points as well, right?
No,
that's an ability.
No, they don't.
They're not.
However, no, abilities don't generate depravity points, but you're doing enough depravity points everywhere else in the game that it doesn't even matter. Ideally, you want to be killing the things that you're in combat with, and this is the trap that a lot of people are going to fall into when playing Slaanesh. They're going to build their army all around generating depravity points, just trying to milk that for as much as you can. That's not, in my opinion, the most optimal way to do it. You need to have other units that are still doing damage, which are ideally better than some other choices in the book, which would potentially generate more depravity down the track. But the Exalted Chariot, as I was saying, 23 attacks, it's doing damage, like it's doing a lot of work. You can make that thing pump out over 60 attacks quite easily with a double pile-in.
I mean, even without your bonus attacks, you're still getting, 46?
Yeah.
Base.
Yeah.
Charge into as many units as you can reach every single time. Get all those 9 extra attacks, because you're most likely going to get your 2+, and it just cut up 1 unit real bad.
How
great.
How does a unit act if I was to charge it? So if it doesn't get the charge off, how is it still effective?
Yeah, it doesn't get its impact hits, but it still gets its 2+ to do D3 mortals and extra attacks. That makes your fight last on a 4+.
If you're going for an easy kill on a chariot, don't charge it, because it's going to get out mortal wounds for free, and then you might kill it, or it'll force you to go last.
Yeah.
I guess
what I find their use.
Go on, Joel.
Sorry, what I find their use the most is being an anti-horde unit. But they can kill other things as well. So, say if you've got 60 grots against me, Magro, this thing will chew through a good 15, 20 of them in a turn, just with mortal wounds and all of its attacks.
Yep. Yeah, no, I guess what I'm thinking and calling out here is, often a chariot does really well. Generically, a chariot does really well when it gets the charge, but when it doesn't get the charge, it doesn't fare that well and often is an easy target. But it sounds like this particular one, the Bladebringer, is not in that situation. It sounds like it's a lot more resilient and still killy when it doesn't get the charge off.
Yeah, being 10 wounds now has made a big difference. I think it was a 5+ save before.
Yeah, it was. It's definitely got a
way more
buff.
survivable, more attacks, more wounds.
It's generally going to be rerolling 1s to hit against you because its own spell is acquiescence.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's got 15 attacks, 3s and 4s with -1 rend. So yeah, choose through hordes.
While we're talking about the Bladebringer, how does this compare to the Herald on Hellflayer and the Herald on Seeker Chariot? Just because it is very similar on a points value. At the moment, it's 220 versus 180 and 160. Are they comparable, or is this one a real standout?
It's a real standout. It's not that much points you'd be saving if you have to cut points, but then it's just so strong because it gets the 2 versions of the mortal wounds. It has so many attacks. Yeah, I wouldn't take any of the others.
Good way of looking at the Exalted in comparison to the other two is that those two make the Exalted Chariot. So, like the other ones, they've got certain buffs which the Exalted Chariot does have. So, yeah, they're kind of watered down versions. I wouldn't take them unless if you wanted like a higher wound hero for 160 or 180 and you didn't have the points.
Yeah.
But yeah, always take the Exalted in my opinion.
The only thing the Exalted doesn't have for some reason is the fallback and charge.
Yeah, well, it's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one thing that yeah, that's one thing that makes the Hellflare chariots good is that they can retreat and charge. It's the Hellflares, isn't it?
Yeah, because they're the ones that have the impact.
No, sorry, it's the regular Seeker chariot, so the smaller version of the Exalted. Yeah, yeah. So that's nice, especially if you're running like God Seekers hosts. These guys are actually like the non-character ones, so just the regular Seeker chariots. They're retreating and charging, so you actually generate depravity points every time that you charge. So yeah.
Great.
But yeah.
There was the 101 on Blade Bringers. So, and you've got 3 choices there, so it could be quite confusing on which ones to take or the most value. It sounds like Exalted Chariot is the one to go.
Yeah.
Any other heroes we think we really like, or are these the ones that are the top picks? Mitch?
The Herald used to be a automatic not include for me. I felt like out of all Heralds of Demons, it was like the worst one. It did barely anything for the army. But now, because it's a wizard, it's so easy to add to your army. It has a pretty cool ability to ignore mortal wounds on a 5+, which none of the Herald on Chariot doesn't have. And I don't know why that's a thing. And the Infernal Rapturist also doesn't have it.
The mask does though. So the mask actually has a 4+ wounded mortal wound shrug, which is basically just the named hero of the regular Herald on foot, who's, in my opinion, is really good for 120.
Is that Vice Leader?
Vice Leader is the regular one.
Yeah, then the mask is the hero.
The named one.
Gotcha.
Yep. So run and charge, 6-inch pile in. Mask is I really wish I could summon it. Going back to the Vice Leader on foot real quick, I would suggest anyone starting Slaanesh to go out and probably buy 2. You have to order it through GW. Go and buy 2, get them painted up. Probably never put them in your list in a larger point game, but always have them on you to daisy chain summon because that's now your cheapest option.
So you wouldn't. So you take the Vice Leader, not in your list, but you have it in your toolkit to summon. And is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Easy.
That's correct, yeah. So they're 10 depravity points, which is the cheapest of the heroes. So you can say if you had 29 depravity points, for example, and you wanted to get halfway across the table or further, you could summon 1 Vice Leader onto another Vice Leader and then 10 Demonettes, 29 depravity points.
My favorite
you get that objective over in the corner.
My favorite part of that is the fact that if we're in game types now where you require a wizard, we can just summon wizards. We can just put them on objectives. Like, I didn't bring as many wizards as I needed, but if I fight you, I can summon a wizard and hold the objective.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Anything else we want to talk about from a hero point of view? Any other standouts or what's this? The Vengeful Allegiance. We've got some other choices.
Oh, right. I haven't used or bought the Demon Prince yet, so I don't have a real opinion on it. I don't.
I think it's hot garbage for competitive play. Awesome model. But yeah, I will never be including it in one of my lists. It's actually the only thing that I didn't buy when this release came out.
And that's
because I'm not planning on using it anytime soon.
No, but why is it hot garbage? Like, what makes it hot garbage?
So 200 points. No, it's not. It actually hits only slightly better than a regular Demon Prince, but that's because it has 2 weapon profiles.
Demon Prince isn't named.
Yeah, its command ability is really, really good, but it has to be the general. So that's why I was touching on earlier. In an Invaders host, that's the only time that I would be looking to run Selesky. What makes it bad, in my opinion, is the way that it fights in combat. So basically, when you choose to activate it, you choose either the Demon Prince with its axe or the Herald on top's whips to attack. You don't get to attack with the other option until the end of the combat phase. Now, when whatever one that you choose for the end of the combat phase gets to reroll hit rolls, but yeah, it just doesn't do damage.
We've got access to other ways to get rerolls, so it's like that's not amazing. It's not like we were like, damn, we can't reroll anything in the army except for on Selesky. It's just
I think regular Demon Princes have 8 wounds. This one only has 9, and it's like basically 2 models. So I think if it was like 12 or 13 wounds, it would be probably a better pick. But it's just too fragile. It doesn't fly like other Demon Princes either, and it's 40 points more.
And it's unique, which means you can't optimize it and can't modify it at all. So
correct, yeah.
It's also only an 8-inch move.
It is, yeah. Awesome model. It's got a really good spell too. So like it's so good potentially, but it's just not quite there. It's got all the cool stuff on it, but basically it's spell. Pick an enemy hero within 18, and they can't use command abilities until your next hero phase.
I actually remember that coming out as a leak from Games Workshop, and I thought, man, this sounds awesome. This sounds really cool. Imagine being able to shut down command abilities, but it sounds like the trade-off's not quite there.
The side to that is there's a greater demon version that is better.
Yeah, basically.
In our lore, we can pick for greater demons. There's 3 spells, and one of them is that, but better.
Right. So okay, that explains why you wouldn't take this model.
And it's not a greater demon either. So it's still only doing the locus on a 4+ instead of a 2+. That's I mean, it's not a massive bonus, but
if it was a greater demon, I probably would take it.
Yes. Yeah, because it also gets access to another spell. Yeah.
Song of Secrets on that would be pretty good, a cheap caster.
Yeah. But you wouldn't be taking it for Song of Secrets, though. That's the problem, Anyway. One more special mention would be the Infernal and Rapturous. So if you play against a lot of Skaven, Tzeentch, or Death, you probably want one of these as well as a Contorted Epitome in your army, just for a bit of magic defense. So what these guys do is wizards have to reroll successful casting rolls while they're within 24 inches of the model. If that reroll is then a double, they take D3 mortal wounds, which is awesome. And then you have the Epitome who's unbinding with a reroll. So really, really, really good magic defense.
Yep. That's like the opposite of the Demon Prince we were just talking about, though, where I would take the Enrapturous if her only ability was forcing the enemy wizards to reroll. But he's like, oh man, his abilities are cool, but the rest of him's not as good. It's like, that one ability.
The Enrapturous has one of the 2 only shooting attacks in the book now that we've got the living whip on the keepers. But so it's got 2 modes for shooting. Basically, the one to talk about is the single shot, 24 inches, hits on a 2, wounds on a 3, neg 3 rend, D3 damage.
The amount of times I've rolled 1s to hit with that.
Oh yeah,
ridiculous. It's always when you have only one shot at something, you always miss.
Now I can't let you guys move on from leaders without talking about a hero that is in the book but isn't in the book. It is the Forge World awesome model that was in Joel's list since day 0 and is now your tournament mascot. That is the Exalted Greater Demon. Joel, why isn't it in your list anymore?
Can we just have a moment of silence for Big Tits? R.I.P.
pour the Hennessy out.
A moment of silence for the slightly weaker Keeper of Secrets.
Yeah.
So the backstory here is that Joel was very famous for running the Exalted Greater Demon, often would run 2, but has obviously changed with the new book. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on, for those people who are thinking about it or maybe even have one, is it still viable? If not, why? Or if it is, how do you make it viable?
That's all yours, Joel.
Yeah, great to summon if you run out of regular keepers to summon. So they also cost 30 depravity. Have the same damage output as a regular keeper too. Yeah, reason why you wouldn't include it in your list over a regular one is they're the same points and it doesn't have a command ability. I don't know. It's just not what it used to be, mate. It took a serious nerf, and it's just still good, but it's not like what it used to be.
So the rules had changed between the
it got a complete rewrite of its war scroll. It's basically, you look at the Keeper of Secrets war scroll, take out the command ability, and that's pretty much it. You don't even worry about its hair ability because it's shit. So,
is there a world that this is a viable choice, or is it purely through summoning?
I'd say purely through summoning, because there's no reason for you to include that in your army over a regular keeper unless if you didn't have the models for it.
Yeah, I think that's more than fair, and I think especially for people who look at Forge World or maybe looking at buying one, heed that it is not as good as it used to be. And if you're like me, like the other day on eBay, I saw two that were really cheap, so partially explains why I saw them going for $100.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about with leaders? I think we've acknowledged them.
Yeah, we've pretty much touched on all of them, actually. There's nothing else really in the book.
All right, well, let's talk battle line, Joel. So you have generic battle line, which is your demonettes for all chaos. By taking allegiance, you have access to the Hell Striders. You've got the Hell Scourges, and then if you're Godseeker, you've got the Seeker Chariots. Yep. So maybe we'll start off with the generic demonettes. So I think earlier we mentioned they are awesome. Is that true? And why are they awesome? Joel?
Well, what's not to like about them, mate, really? So you've got, they did go up slightly in points by only 10, but, whatever. 110 points for 10 models, right? 6-inch move, 5 up save, 1 wound for every 10. You think, why would I ever take these for with garbage stats like that? Let me tell you, my friend. They got 2 attacks, 4s, neg 1 damage, right? 6 is to hit, 2 hits because of the allegiance. When they're in a unit of 20 or more, 6 is to hit, 3 hits instead of 1. So all of a sudden, they're actually pumping out a whole heap of attacks. They have built-in, run and charge. They don't have built-in reroll 1s to hit anymore, but you get that in Pretender's Host, which is another reason why it's so good for. And then, you got the battalion, which is really, really strong, the Epicurean Revelers. And it's basically 2 to 4 units of demonettes. And what that gives you is basically unmodified 6s to wound is a mortal wound instead of regular damage. So when your basic battle line are all in 1 drop, as well as doing mortal wounds on the wound rolls, it's really, really strong.
And the best part about that battalion is, while it only affects demonettes, it includes fiends. So if you do bring fiends, they're a part of the 1 drop.
Yeah, and that buff actually goes onto the chariots inside that battalion as well.
I wish we could take the name ones in there.
Yes, same here.
Oh, that's the name ones for the heroes.
Yeah, you just take demonettes and maybe fiends if you wanted to.
So in the average 2,000 point list, am I taking MSUs? Am I taking units of 30s, or like how do I go about with my demonette units? What's a good build?
Max 30. I have at least 2 units of them.
Yep, couldn't agree more. 30-30, then 10 or 20, whatever tickles your fancy.
Pay the rest of the attacks.
Yeah.
So MSU is definitely not the best build.
No, because you want to benefit from the 20 plus, and you also want them hanging around in case they do take casualties. As we're all familiar with, or maybe not familiar with, I'll tell you anyway. When you roll a 1 for Battle Shock with all the demon infantry, not just Slanesh like demonettes, but everything else, on a 1 on your Battle Shock, you get D6 models back into the unit. So that having them have the ability to regrow is really strong too.
Or just
there's been times
take massive hits and then get a 1 and I'm not going to run. See ya.
Yeah, there's been times where I've just said, fuck it, I'll just take the Battle Shock and hope for a 1. Hasn't paid off, or if it does, it's great. There's also been times where I've been knocked under 20 and then rolled a 1 and then gone back over 20 to then get 3 hits on a 6 again.
Or you've lost like 2 models, and you're just like, oh, I can't fail, but I'll try anyway. And you roll a 1, and you're back to full unit size, and the look in the opponent's eyes is so
it's great.
so good.
Can you go above your starting unit size?
No. None of that shenanigans. We don't get that lucky. Just everything else we get.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a pretty good run, guys. Like the whole fighting last piece is pretty good. Let's bring on an extra, 1,000 points as well. Why not?
I still sleep with the book next to me because I just want to read it sometimes. Oh, what? Let me double check. I can't remember how much points that is. Oh, yes.
Anything else worth talking about from a demonette point of view? So it sounds like minimum size 20 to start getting those benefits. 30s obviously are great, especially having 1.
If it was me, I probably wouldn't be starting with a unit of 20. It'd be 30 or 10.
You don't want to risk losing 1 model.
Yeah, that's it. Because you're either taking them to fill up your battle line slots or the battalion tax, or you're looking to benefit out of everything. So by going 20, there's just really no real point. I mean, I took a unit of 20, but there was also another 2 units of 30. I just used them as chaff screens, really, the unit of 20. But 30s or 10s, in my opinion.
They're an even better chaff screen now because you can stick a hero behind them within 6 inches. And then if someone charges them, and you're planning on losing them anyway, but if they get to fight first, even better.
Yeah.
Do either of you take the Hellstriders either with the Claw Spear or the Hell Scourge as a battle line choice?
You're laughing, but yes, I do. They're 5 fast Chaos Warriors.
Which one do you take, the Claw Spear or the Hell Scourge, or one of each?
They're like painting whips. Spear.
So you take the Claw Spear?
Yeah.
Outside of the whip, is there any other reason why you're taking them?
That's like the models or choosing the spears instead?
Yeah, like why would you take the spear over the Scourge?
I already had them painted. I don't plan on buying more, but they are a good 5-man unit to throw in my battle line that are fast enough to cap objectives and slightly tankier than demonettes. That's all I got.
The reason why I was laughing for is because I have a bit of a reputation with Hellstriders from Masters last year.
I'm not saying
anyway, I'm not going to go into.
We're not talking.
I'm not going to go into that.
You had a lot of -1s that didn't stack for some reason.
Let's not go into that chat.
Anyway, not going into that. But so Hellstriders aren't what they used to be, which I'm fine with because you get over things. What I really like,
that way.
Yeah, it does. What I really like about them, even though they don't have their Rapturing banner anymore for neg 1s, what I like is them in the other battalion. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but they can just pile in 6 inches.
It's the Seeker Cavalcade.
Yeah, that one.
120 points, so 6-inch pile in.
So, you can build an army, an entire army just in that battalion with chariots, with seekers, as well as your battle line in these dudes.
Yep.
And they can all just pile in and activate from 6 inches. You don't actually have to charge, which can be kind of strong in itself if you build around it. So I think there's something definitely there. Not to mention they actually got a little bit tankier as well. So they got a 4-up save now instead of a 5-up.
They lost their mortal wound save, but that's not too bad.
Yeah, shit happens, They're Hellstriders. They're 100 points.
Cheap.
Who cares?
They're cheap.
But if you're looking at a mortal army, you definitely take those guys for an extra 10 points over Chaos Warriors any day of the week.
20 of those guys, especially with their +1 attack ability that they've got now, which is like if they killed stuff in the previous combat phase, they just get a bonus attack in this combat phase.
Yeah.
Speaking of Chaos Warriors, you can mark Chaos Warriors, and Chaos Knights, and the Shrine. Are they worth bringing into a Slaanesh force?
They're very expensive.
Yeah. Depends on the build.
30. Go ahead.
It just depends on the build. Like mortals don't synergize with the book too well because actually all of the Slaves to Darkness stuff doesn't have the Heathen Knights keyword, which is a big deal. So you don't get the Locus of Diversion. You still get Exploding Sixes to hit, but you don't get that Locus, which is quite big, especially for an army like Slaves to Darkness. Yeah.
So it doesn't sound like Slaves to Darkness integrate as well into this battle tome as they do with Khorne or Zench or some of the other forces.
Yeah. They're really.
And I remember on the Warhammer television stream, they were making a clear distinction that the Mortals was very much kind of almost separate to this book. So this kind of ties in nicely with that.
So the reason why Hellstriders are in the book still is because they got both mortal and demon keyword. They're actually in the narrative. They're not really sort of mortals at all. They're dudes that got trapped on a seeker basically. And they can never leave their mount.
Yeah. Going back to keywords, I wish I would take Selesky if it had the mortal keyword because it was a human originally, the Demon Prince. And being able to get a mortal spellcaster in your army without losing the Hedonite keyword would be amazing.
Yeah. It's actually, while we're touching on this stuff, it's important to note that Archaon is probably garbage in Slaanesh now, just because he doesn't have the Hedonite keyword, so he doesn't get half the buffs in the book.
Yeah, he does get the exploding hits, which is kind of crazy on the Slayer of Kings. I brought him to a doubles tournament, or my mate brought him, and I brought a keeper, and it was it was impossible to deal with.
You just can't make him double piling anymore. No. You know, like that's what made him really cool in the old rule set.
Yeah,
but
I think Slaanesh is a book that's very much like we don't care much about named characters.
No.
We just love buffing up big non-named characters to pretty much big gods. Like that's why I love Pretenders. It's just one big god running around the board killing stuff.
And it sounds like it's a self-contained book as well, as opposed to like, let's say Nurgle, where you can bring in, your Pestilence force and kind of really boost it up. Joel, this one might be for you. So Joel, in a prior life, is also a Beast of Chaos, amazing player. Do you see any synergies between those two books, or can you even bring in Beasts of Chaos into a Slaanesh force, or does it have the same type of challenges?
So you can bring them in. In the Beasts of Chaos book, they had God-marked battalions. So there's the Depraved Drove, which is basically 1 to 6 heroes and however many thing of everything else. So you can literally take everything but the monsters of chaos, so chimeras and cockatrice and all that sort of thing, in a Slaanesh army.
Really a shame, because I would love to run cockatrices with the exploding hits.
Yeah, that would be funny, actually. But, so 150 points for the battalion, and you need like a 90-point hero minimum as a Beast Lord, which you wouldn't take in a Slaanesh army. You'd take a Brace Shaman, because then you'd be taking Ungors, Gors, Bestigors. Bestigors with exploding sixes is basically the list that I was running, which was pure Beast of Chaos, except Slaanesh just do it better for some reason. So, look, people like them, Beasts in Slaanesh, but I think that Demonettes will be better purely for the fact that they're on 25 mil bases as opposed to 32s as in Bestigors.
So you can do it, but again, it sounds like your inherent Slaanesh book just does it better.
That's right.
Yeah. If you've got a Beast army and a Slaanesh army and neither of them are massive, run the Beast one and just summon Demonettes.